Well, tonight what I'd like to do is make sure that we discuss together whatever concerns you have about being a Christian father. So rather than start from my end tonight, because I've got stuff we can keep going and going, I'd like to start with you. I'll be honest, I've had the opportunity of doing these kinds of gatherings all over the United States. In my career in California, I was thinking about the other day, California, Wisconsin, did one down in Florida, did another one in Indianapolis, another one in Minneapolis, but those are usually brief weekends, and I've got one which we're just discussing now that's going to be in Los Angeles for a weekend for a group of Christian women. So I don't know what I'm going to do with all them, but we'll do our best. On my website are all of the offerings of the different things that I'm doing. But this time is special because Mike chose all these topics. These are the things that he wanted men of integrity to discuss, and just want you to know that he chose hard ones. And not only tough, but all of them could be 6 weeks or 8 weeks or longer because there's so much to them. So we're just barely scraping the surface on all of these topics. But this is our second to last session, and I've just had a blast and been so grateful to be here. So what are some things about fatherhood that concern you or that you think we ought to discuss tonight? Now, I want to make sure we hit on them as we go through our presentation. Anything come to mind?
Mine is just discipline, or how to deal with discipline to get them to their, with kids, you do one thing and then the next day they change.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard keeping up with them, number one, and hard telling what's actually getting through or working, or
Almost our whole presentation tonight will deal with that subject of discipline.
Well, lucky you.
So, thanks for bringing that up, because I don't have a talk without that subject.
So, something that I spoke with Tom about, being a father of daughters, trying to raise them as Christian daughters who are modest. And modesty is a difficult thing. For those of you that have daughters, for those of you that maybe don't, simply shopping for clothes is a difficult task because the only stuff that's out there is what I would consider inappropriate. And so you're trying to make the best decisions you can with an inappropriate selection. And so that's been a tough thing, and then getting thrown back at you. Everybody else is doing this. There's nothing else out there. You're being, the standards are, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, and I say, this is my standard, and, this is how we have, and they're like, oh, they don't like hearing it. And even sometimes Sharon will be like, you're going too far, pushing too much, but I feel that the farther I go and the higher I raise the bar, I might drag them up a little higher to purity.
I want 100 grand, I ask for 200.
Exactly. So that's something that's the peer pressure and the purity piece, and I'm not even talking the sexual purity, because my daughters are, Michaela's probably got kids that she knows that are engaging in some activities that aren't appropriate, but
the average age for sex, the research that we have now is for girls is 17. Boys 16.
Yeah, she's 8th grade. She's going to be a freshman next year, so she is right at that influential age where she's seeing a lot of stuff, and I just want to do the best I can to give her what she needs to get through, and I just worry a lot about it.
Promise we'll get to it. Anything else?
I got an older son who's addicted to alcohol and drugs. He seems to be sober a lot of the time now. I've had two other sons who are both alcoholics. They are both straightened out. The last one is, and how hard do I get? How soft do I get? But I have a feeling that that may be a separate subject, you know, for a long time discussion. So if it is, pass me by. Get to what the rest of these people.
We certainly want to bring that up because
I think addiction,
more and more
yeah.
children are addicted to a variety of things.
Mhm.
And the subject of addictionology, addiction is addiction is addiction. So what we're going to talk about would be easily applicable to that.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're addicted to, you know, it doesn't have to stop with drugs and alcohol. That list is long.
Well, I have counseled people on drugs, alcohol, gambling, pornography, rather successfully. But
Good.
with my own son, it's a different ballgame.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can't use the same methods with him.
You know, have a little different relationship, right?
Yeah, because I'm dad, you know.
Just like Jesus had a little bit of a difficult time preaching in his hometown, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Good. Anything else?
The subject of being the spiritual head of the household, I always like to hear people talk about that.
What does that mean? How
Yeah.
far do you take it?
Yeah.
What does that picture look
Yeah.
like? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how can you model a strong Christian influence on your family? Yeah, that's good.
That's very good.
Would mentoring, not necessarily your own children, but you know, shining that light, you know, being salt in the world in a mentoring role, maybe get touched on.
Describe what you mean by mentoring role, because that's kind
I don't
of...
have children.
I see.
I have a heart for passing on some of the things I've learned to some younger people that we go to church with. Just, you know, you don't have to learn by going through it yourself. I'll tell you about my failures and what to avoid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So mentoring other parents,
Yeah.
that would be really good. You know, and you're right about something. One of the best therapists I know with dealing with parenting, it was a Catholic priest
Mm-hmm.
for over 40 years, and he was absolutely fantastic. And of course, he never had any kids, but was really great. And some of the ideas we have so far is talking about discipline and how can you be an effective father of daughters, especially when it comes to modesty issues. How do you parent children with addiction problems? What does it mean to be a spiritual head of a household? And how can one mentor parents? I think I got them.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that comes to mind for you? Not that you're on the spot.
Paul, you had something you were raising?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can we just, the line between providing as a provider and over-providing or
Yeah. Enabling.
enable it, you know,
Yeah. That's good.
Very good. Good.
The one I have is my wife and I don't agree on a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
and when it comes to the modesty and all that type of stuff, how do you kind of work through that?
Okay.
And kind of like you're too tough, you know. Same thing. That's what I get.
Mhm.
Yeah, for me, it's maybe along those lines is what does it mean to be head of the household in God's eyes?
That's a good 6 months worth you got there, buddy.
And we're going to do all that tonight by 8:30. So we're going to. All right. I'm going to start this in a way that's a little different, and I want you to trust me that as we begin this way, we are going to get into topics you brought up and other things. I'm going to start this in a way that's a little different, and I want you to trust me that as we begin this way, we are going to get into topics you brought up and other things. I'd like someone to volunteer who would be willing to read the parable of the prodigal son or the lost son. Who would be willing to read that for us? I put it right on your sheet. So we need a lecture tonight.
I'll take it.
Great.
Let's see. Oh, let me see what I'm getting into.
What I volunteer for.
Yeah.
If you get exhausted, just stop and somebody pick it up.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
You want to go ahead?
Please.
Okay. Jesus continued, there was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but not one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, How many of my father's hired servants had food to spare, and here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to his father, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed a fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you killed a fattened calf for him. My son, the father said, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.
Okay, very good. If we had a lot of time together, like if we had a whole Saturday morning or kind of retreat setting, I wouldn't do what I'm going to do now, and that is give you a bunch of answers. But in this parable, I think more than any other piece of scripture that I know of are some fantastic attributes of parenting. So I want you to take a look, for example, at verse 12. And someone read for us verse 12.
The younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them.
Okay. What this is an example of is the father is wise. He's very, very smart. He understands that when you have an older child, sure, a child who is of age, you must respect that person's choices, even if you disagree. So he is wise. He doesn't say to him, get out of here. There's no way. We're going to fight this thing out. This is my money. You can't have it. He didn't try to find some loophole in Jewish law. Rather, he was wise. So the first thing I want to say to us, and we're going to unpack what this means, is that to be a Christian father means developing a strong set of tools and a strong set of wisdom. To be blunt, years ago, and I mentioned this to you in another presentation, at the University of Wisconsin during a summer, I was taking a class by one of the best known family and marital therapists in family and marital history, Dr. Carl Whitaker. And he said, it was all men in the class at that time, he said, gentlemen, whenever you have a troubled adolescent or a troubled child, unless it be for endogenous reasons, that is biochemical reasons, a child is born with schizophrenia or something like that, the problem may always be traced to the marriage. Always be traced to the marriage. So getting the parents, for example, on the same page in parenting is imperative. Because one of the things that kids do, it comes automatically, you've seen it since they were little, is they try to get the two of you in conflict so that they walk out of it, or their part of the conflict or the discipline is minimized. We call that, there's a formal term for it, splitting. So in dealing with troubled adolescents, for example, you frequently see a great deal of splitting. Mom and dad are on two separate pages. Or mom and dad have a really bad marriage. Or mom and dad have a really bad divorce. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it isn't. I know some parents who've chosen not to continue their marriage, but actually parent quite well together. They're on the same page there. They're not good in a marriage, but they're each are a good mom and a good dad. And so the first thing is to understand is that you have to develop the skills within yourself to have your life together, your spirituality together, to be working on your marriage, as we spent a lot of time last week talking about. Remember, I told you that the core of the family is the marriage. It comes, if there's two kids, there's husband and wife here, and the two kids here. In situations with which I deal with every day, it's something like this. It'll be dad out here, and mom and the two kids here. Or in one case I have right now, it's dad and the two daughters here, and it's mom who's here. God set things up correctly. The two shall become one flesh, and the two then bring forth new life. But this must be one flesh. Now that doesn't mean you're going to agree on everything 100%, but you've got to be in the same ballpark. You've got to be on the same page in the values. As I mentioned to you, one of the primary reasons for divorce in the United States is conflict over parenting. And that among marriages is getting worse because dads have taken on since the 70s more and more responsibilities for parenting. It used to be very simple when I grew up. My dad worked, my mom stayed at home. You know, my mom would say, wait till your dad gets home, kind of thing. But that's not the case anymore. A very good friend of mine, his wife is CEO of a major company. He takes care of the kids. And she's not home as much as he would like, or she would like. And so the whole parenting thing is a different paradigm, a different approach.
Doesn't that buck the biblical approach of the father? So they're kind of up against it right out of the gate, aren't they, Jeff?
It bucks the way that we have lived out in the Judeo-Christian tradition the sense of family. It does. I don't want to say it's of the devil or doomed or something like that.
But it does, to what you're saying, it does kind of go against the model that Jesus in the Bible lays out. That the father is the head of the household, and he's kind of the breadwinner and the mom is a nurturing.
Now-
Am I kind of misreading that?
I don't think you're misreading it. I think my friend would argue that he is the head of the house. And knowing them, I think he is.
Okay.
I just think
Even
that
though he's not the breadwinner, but he's still the
he's
head
not
of
the
house.
breadwinner, but he's the spiritual leader of that household.
Gotcha.
Very spiritual.
Okay, so you gotta kind of, you can separate those two.
Mhm. Yeah, the spiritual head of the house doesn't necessarily mean the provider, though normally it does. The thing is that today families are all over the map as to how they are connected. The nuclear family, Ward and June, Beaver and Wally, is not necessarily the predominant family anymore. You have all sorts of different combinations. We could spend a whole other session or more on the very messy, can I say it one more time just for effect? Messy topic of step parenting and the difficulties that brings.